are oceans apart from India, and I know that so many of you in this room travel back and forth reasonably frequently, and once you've made that trip, you know how far away it is. When we were in India, Stuart Beck reminded me that over 1 million people a month, 1 million people a month are going to be joining the workforce every month for the next 15 years. Now, can you imagine having a problem like that to deal with here in Canada or in British Columbia? We have the opposite problem, which is a growing economy that is constrained potentially by the fact that we don't have enough people to fill those jobs. But both of them are problems. Both of them are good problems to have. Both of them point to opportunities for real growth in the future. And I think about what India needs and what British Columbia has. India needs to make the most of its population growth, education, and energy. Those will be the two key investments that they need to make. We've also done that in British Columbia, where we have invested in universities, post-secondary education, secondary education, some of the best you'll find anywhere in the world, to produce a highly educated workforce. That means our economy can grow. Equally, we've invested in low-cost, sustainable, dependable energy, which again means our economy can continue to grow. And if India needs education and India needs energy, is there any better partner for India than this place right here, where we have such an incredible abundance of both? And so I look at that potential partnership, and I see endless opportunity for us here and for the people of British Columbia. Now, our trade with India has already grown by over 130% over just the last 3 years. Now, it's a pretty small number to start with, but that growth is going to continue, I think, at a very high rate. Last year alone, just last year, the number was 46%. That raised it to about $469 million. That's not a lot of money when you compare it to our trade with China. We're at $5.7 billion in trade with that country. But remember this, 10 years ago, we were at about the same trade balance with China that we are with India today. And we built up that trade, our trade opportunity with China through a lot of hard work, through relationships, through trade missions, through government, industry collaboration. We know how to do it. And I think we have an even bigger opportunity now that we have all those teachings, those learnings under our belt, to be able to move faster in growing our trade with India. Last October, I had the chance to lead 70 business delegates, government delegates, post-secondary institution representatives, federal representatives, and First Nations on a trade mission to India. Now, some of you in this room were on that trade mission with us, so you may know, I just want to talk about 8 of the agreements that were signed. Richmond Signalchem signed an agreement with a company, an R&D facility in Bangalore. They're going to be developing a new oncology drug, and that's something that is going to mean we help solve the puzzle of cancer all over the world, and it's going to mean also that we have more jobs created here in British Columbia as a result of that collaboration. Uber Diagnostics, an India-based company, has signed an agreement to move in to Innovation Boulevard in Surrey. GMR Group signed a deal with IC Impacts that's going to work on helping to develop new technologies for sustainable infrastructure, like new pavement technologies, as an example. Reliance Industries also signed an agreement with IC Impacts to develop new technologies and specialized building materials. India's special effects giant, Double Negative, is opening a new state-of-the-art facility in Vancouver. North Shore Studios, with Peter Leach is here today, signed an MOU for cooperation with Ramoji Film City. We had 20 scholarships announced to encourage back and forth movement for students between the University of the Fraser Valley and the Sanatan Dharma College in Chandigarh. We had Simon Fraser University sign an agreement with Indian Oil to share research and make sure that we are working together on hydrogen and other fuel cell technology research. That's just 8 of the areas where we signed agreements on this last trade mission. And it really is just the beginning of all of the things that we want to do. But trade is not just about British Columbia going to India and saying, on a sales mission, and say, you can't believe the deal I have for you. Trade is about much, much, much more than that. It's about building long-term, durable, sustainable relationships between people and between individuals. It's about being able to go to India and not say, guess what, I've got something to sell you. It's about going to India and saying, what is it you need and how can we help you? When I think about the thousands and thousands of people from South Asia who have come here to help build British Columbia and Canada, I think of trade with India as a chance to return that favor, for us to go back and help India become the powerhouse that it is poised to become. And again, energy is central to that. India gets most of its energy from coal and oil, a third from oil and half from coal. And Indians only have to look north to China, to Shanghai, to Beijing, to see what reliance on those two sources of fuel will do to your air. Indians only have to look north, if they happen to live south of it, to Delhi, to see what happens. Because air quality in Delhi, as many of you know, is worse than air quality in Shanghai. And that's because the mix of fuels isn't right. Now, Prime Minister Modi has set a lofty goal of trying to change India's energy mix, to try and make sure that more than 8% of its energy comes from natural gas. He's talking about laying thousands and thousands of kilometers of pipes to distribute natural gas across the country. There are already 4 regasification plants up and running, and 9 more of them are planned. And so when I met with government ministers and industry leaders selling our natural gas industry, they talked about how important it was that they have a supplier that they can rely on. And who is more reliable in the world than Canada? And who in Canada is more reliable than British Columbia? AAA rated, on the cusp of 3 balanced budgets in a row, a low debt to GDP ratio, and a place where we have set the standard for being able to do business. Every single country in the world wants to have a AAA-rated trading partner in their portfolio. Every country in the world wants to go and work with a country like British Columbia that has one of the biggest natural gas resources anywhere in the world, proven resources. And anybody wants to come to a country like this one where they know we will not play politics with energy. That's an essential part of everybody's portfolio. And that's why Indian Oil is making such a big bet on the Petronas project. So where are we at with that project? $36 billion potential investment waiting to get to final investment decision. We've come to terms with Petronas. We popped open the bottles of champagne after months and months and months of negotiating the total economic environment that we would set for Petronas. What would their environmental compliance costs look like? How do we make up the royalty curve? What will the total tax take be? All of those elements are done. And Petronas has said that they are absolutely satisfied that British Columbia is going to be a great place to do business. Now, they're going to spend a little more time trying to get a better deal from their suppliers, and that certainly makes sense. But we think that they will. And now that they're done with us, when they're done with their suppliers, we think that we'll see a final investment decision sometime this year. And that's great for British Columbia. It's great because it will be our first big agreement on natural gas, but it's also great because it will be the biggest investment from India in British Columbia in our history. And once we've done that, I believe that we are going to be a lot closer to establishing a presence for British Columbia in the Indian market. In closing, let me say this, because as I said, I think that trade is a whole lot more about just the movement of goods. Trade is also about the movement of ideas. And you think about the fact that Indians invented zero, and Indians invented trigonometry, and Indians invented algebra. Indians invented mathematics for the world. And so buttons got to Europe, and after the Indians invented them 3,000 years later, Europeans were also able to button up their coats. But that's just a good. When Indians gave the world math, they changed the world forever. So we should never forget that our trading relationship, particularly with a country as rich and sophisticated in ideas as India is not just about goods. It's about people. It's about new thinking. It's about collaboration and coming up with innovative ways of doing things. Because India is in a position today, just as they were 3,000 years ago when they gave us math, to change the world, to transform the world forever, with a massive growing middle class that will be consuming at huge rates, with a huge need for energy that could be clean or could be dirty. India has the chance to change the world by fighting greenhouse gas emissions. India has the chance to change the world and that part of the world in so many ways that we still can't predict. So Subka Saath, Subka Vikas, everyone working together for everyone's progress and everyone's development. Let's make sure that we are one in that everyone. Let's make sure that we are part of Prime Minister Modi's sentence. We want to be part of the map that India sees when they look out at the world, and you are so important, everyone in this room, and helping make sure that we cement and we build that relationship. So thank all of you for being the vanguard for us and making sure we're there when the Indians look out at the world. We want to be a part of their world, just as so many South Asian people have decided to be a part of this world. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, Happy Diwali, a little late for that, I know. Thank you very, very much.